Alright, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrub here. Today I've got a story time for y'all about a very embarrassing thing one of my friends did when he was home alone one time and thought his house was getting broken into. It should be a pretty funny story. I think you guys are going to enjoy it. And yeah, without further ado, let's get into it.
Turned 21, but my bank's a million. Swear I'm a little drunk, but it's a hell of a feeling. Got so damn high that I'm touching the...
Alright, so this story was told to me by a childhood friend of mine last time we were hanging out about how he, thought his house was broken into one time, so he started home aloneing and fortifying his house. And obviously, he was pretty embarrassed because, you know, it's not exactly what was going down. He ended up looking pretty stupid, but it was a pretty wild story, so I figured it's one that I was going to share with you guys because I thought y'all would find it entertaining. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. I will say, though, if you're a kid home alone and someone's breaking into your house, don't try to 1v1 the robbers, just call the police. My friend was 13 years old at the time, which was, you know, the age where he could stay alone home for the first time. Obviously, it's not that big of a deal to stay home alone, you know, but the first time you do it, it's a pretty big deal to you, and since he had never done it before, he was also, very excited for it. It almost felt like this was a real responsibility, you know, his parents trusted him enough to stay home alone. He obviously was taking it pretty seriously, and before he was allowed to stay home alone for the first time, his dad had given him the speech about how, you shouldn't open the door to strangers when you're alone, and how when no adults are home, he's in charge of the house, so it's up to him to protect it, you know, and that he needed to be careful since no one was here, that type of stuff. Which, listen, you know, is probably a little bit of a paranoid speech to give in terms of, you have to protect the house. Don't answer the door to strangers. That rule makes sense. Being if I'm not here, you have to defend us from robbers. I don't necessarily know that that's the best advice. Anyways, after his dad's speech, my friend was a little bit paranoid because of the fact that, A, it's his first time home alone, and B, his dad had given him this whole, you need to protect the house speech. But regardless, the day comes and his parents are all right, we're gonna leave you home alone. We'll be back in 8 hours. Good luck. And so his parents end up leaving. And for the first little bit, he's very excited. He's running around. He's eating ice cream, bro. He's this is the greatest day of my life. But pretty quickly after his parents are gone, it sets in that he's a little bit too scared to have been left home alone. He's getting really paranoid at every noise he hears, you know, and he's oof, maybe I don't want to be home alone for the next 8 hours. But at the same time, he really didn't want to call his parents and admit that he was scared and couldn't do it because, obviously you never want to do that. So he just decided that he was going to swallow the fear and get over it, you know, nothing bad was going to happen, and he just was going to deal with it. And that being said, he started to hear noises and stuff from outside the house, and honestly, looking back on it, he admits it's probably just normal stuff, but because he was already a little paranoid, in his head, he starts envisioning that, you know, there's a burglar truck outside, and basically they're casing the joint getting ready to break in. And he's just so scared of the idea that there might be people outside trying to break in that he sprints around the house, closing all the blinds as fast as humanly possible, right? He's no one's gonna be looking in this house. And at that point, he decides that he's gonna have to protect the house like his dad said, you know. He had obviously seen Home Alone, as most of us have, and so he decides that if he's gonna protect the house, he should booby trap it and protect it, which, you know, I think's a very dumb idea. Don't get it twisted, I'm not saying you shouldn't protect your house, but I feel like if you're so convinced that people are breaking in, it's probably better to just call the police than it is to take things into your own hands and start putting Hot Wheels by the front door. If you're so paranoid, you're actually gonna start setting up booby traps with flamethrowers pointing in the direction of door handles because you think that there might be burglars outside. You don't even know if there are, you just think that there are. Maybe you should just call the cops. You know, you shouldn't be trying to 1v3 the burglars as a 13-year-old, clearly a little paranoid if they are out there. I feel like taking things into your own hands isn't gonna go very well. Even in Home Alone, if it wasn't for the dude with the shovel, that would have ended very, very badly. Regardless, he starts running around the house, grabbing everything he can to potentially make some traps to stop the robbers, you know. He runs into his dad's room, and he grabs this huge bookend that his dad had that was in the shape of a fist. He was just thinking that he could make a trap out of it, you know. And this thing probably weighed 1 or 2 pounds. He was awesome, this will make a good trap. I can use it to, you know, punch someone in the face. He goes from his dad's room, he runs down to the garage, and he's just looking through everything, throwing stuff everywhere, making a mess. He grabs some fishing line and a 2x4 and runs back up with the fist, the 2x4, and the fishing line. And the way that their house was set up, there was a staircase above the front door with a banister, so he puts the 2x4 in the banister, and he takes the fishing line, and he basically makes this little pendulum looking thing with the fist on it that's on this 2x4 pointed at the front door. You you know, and like if he lets go, this fist is gonna swing down and punch whoever's walking in the face. Obviously, a little bit inspired by like the paint can scene, you know. But at that point, he's like, all right, there's a trap on the front door. I don't gotta worry about that. If anyone comes in, I can just like punch them with this giant metal fist bookend thing. So that's not gotta be worried about. He runs to the back door and he's like, crap, people can look in, you know. So he puts some blankets on the back door to make sure no one could look in. And then he decides the best way to secure the back door is to glue it shut. That's really stupid. Obviously, he's just panicking and freaking out. But regardless, he decides to glue the back door shut. So he runs back to the garage and he's looking through everything, making more of a mess. And he finally stumbles upon some wood glue. And he's like, oh, perfect. Now I can glue the back door closed. Runs back inside to the back door and starts filling the door jamb, all the cracks in the door, everything with just glue. And listen, I don't really know like what in his mind that was going to do, as if they were going to open the door, like, and it was just not going to work because of the glue. If someone's kicking in a door, I don't think wood glue is going to do much. It's just a horrible idea. It's going to be like impossible to clean up. It's going to cause problems for the door if nobody breaks in. And I'm not really sure it's going to stop the robbers in the first place, but whatever. He had already done it. He fills the entire back door jamb with all this glue and whatnot. He covers more of the windows, and at that point he goes to his room and he grabs his airsoft gun and he's hiding in the living room. And it's not like, I guess obviously all airsoft guns aren't like extremely powerful, but he had like an electric airsoft gun that could fire pretty fast. It was pretty strong. Not gonna do a whole lot against robbers, but in his mind, he was feeling safer. So he's just kind of sitting in the house, just like waiting, listening to everything going on outside. And obviously, it's not a whole lot of traps. He had just kind of glued the door shut and put the fist by the front door. You know, my friend is definitely smarter now than he was back then. But when his paranoia was in overdrive, he was just like, all right, I'm just gonna secure the house. And as his paranoia is in overdrive and he's sitting in the living room, he hears a knock on the door, which, you know, under normal circumstances isn't that weird. You would just go to the peephole and see who it is, and if you didn't know them, then you don't answer the door. But obviously, because he had already convinced himself that like there's a burglar truck outside and everyone's here to rob him, he just decides to ignore it and act like he's not home, you know. So he's just not saying or doing anything, and they start banging on the door. He starts to hear a voice being like, hello, hello, but he just doesn't reply to it. And after all that banging, he's now freaking out even more, and what really scares him is he hears whoever was just knocking on the door start to walk around the side of the house. Like he hears they're crunching on the rocks on the side of the house, and he realizes that they're going around to the side gate. You know, he doesn't know who it is, but he's just listening them like go into the side gate and come into the backyard. And then he hears them walking on rocks around the corner of the house, through the backyard and over towards the back door. And so like I had said, he had put some blankets over the back door. Usually that was just kind of like a glass back door so people could just kind of see into the house, but he had done that just in case someone came into the back door they couldn't see in. But he hears them start to get to the door and they start like knocking on the back door really, really hard. And obviously, you know, at that point he's pretty convinced somebody's broken in, because it is weird for somebody to be like going around your backyard and knocking on the back door. I don't think that's something that many people are doing on a daily basis. I will give my friend that. At this point, he's basically 100% convinced that someone's trying to rob the house, because yeah, it is weird to come around to the back door. Clearly, it's not the UPS man dropping off a package. If he's knocking for 5 minutes at the front door, nobody answers, and he's like going for a backyard exploration trip. At least I hope it's not the UPS man, dude. It would be a little bit bizarre if they were like all of a sudden just walking around your house's property. Hey, nice backyard. Do you mind if I take a dip in the pool? You know, no thank you. Imagine FedEx adds a new program where you could have your packages dropped off in the backyard to avoid porch pirates or whatever. Like, you just have all these people going through your backyard. You know, dog attacks would skyrocket 700%, because, you know, there's the meme about them already attacking mailmen, and now you're gonna have them running through the backyard. Bad wombo combo. Obviously, in this guy's mind, though, anyone who's going to knock on the back door, fidgeting with the back door, is not there for a good reason, because, you know, it is very, very weird for them to be in your backyard. Anyways, whoever's in the backyard starts trying to open the back door, and at that point, he gets a rush of bravery, probably the adrenaline starting to hit him, you know, and he decides to run to this balcony that's upstairs that you could see the back back door from and just see what's going on. So he scrambles upstairs like a quarterback under pressure. He gets out onto the balcony to the right of the back door, and he's like obviously not trying to get noticed, so he opens it all slowly so the person he can't hear him. And he gets out onto the balcony and he starts like literally stealthily crawling over to the edge so he can see what's going on. And as he crawls to the edge of the balcony, he sees this guy. He can't see who he is because he's got a hoodie on with the hood up, trying to get into the back door. And like I said, he had his airsoft gun with him, and you know, it's not like those can really hurt anyone, but it definitely doesn't feel good to get a bunch of airsoft bullets to the back. So he decides at that point to light him up, which I will say is an absolutely horrible idea, dude. Like, if this is a robber who is trying to break into your house and steal things from you, I think shooting him with an airsoft gun is only going to make him angrier and let him know that someone's definitely in the house, you know? Like, call me crazy, but at this point, if you've gone out onto the back balcony and you see someone breaking into your house with a hood up, wiggling your back door that you don't know, you can probably safely assume that they're a robber, and it's okay to just go back inside and call the police. This isn't something that you have to handle yourself, but my friend, just having a burst of adrenaline, you know, decides that, no, it is something that he's gonna handle himself. Anyways, my friend opens fire on the robber with his airsoft gun, and immediately the guy kind of starts to like flinch and yell because he wasn't expecting it, and they do hurt, and you know, he runs away from the back door and sprints around the side of the house where he can't be seen anymore. And so my friend is like, aha, I got him to retreat. You know, in reality now, like I said, you just kind of blasted a guy who's breaking into your house with an airsoft gun. But at that point, my friend is feeling this rush of bravery, like he's somehow taken down this entire criminal syndicate that is just hell-bent on breaking into his house. So he starts to yell, come out with your hands up, you know, once again, I think kind of forgetting the fact that it's only an airsoft gun. Like, it's really probably not a good idea to be like, come out with your hands up when it's not, just, you can't do anything, bro. But to his surprise, you know, two hands pop around the corner, followed by a voice that's just like, it's me, it's your Uncle Jim. And suddenly, my friend is starting to be like, oh, maybe I'm a little bit stupid. And around the corner, followed by the hands, comes the guy with the hood off of his hoodie, and sure enough, it is his uncle. Like, this dude that he had just been convinced is breaking into his house that he lit up with his airsoft gun is just his uncle trying to get into the backyard. And so obviously, my friend's starting to feel like a moron. You know, here he is thinking that he's Jason Bourne, but in reality, he had just, you know, lit up his uncle. But immediately he gets pissed and he's like, well, why didn't you just like knock on the front door? He's like, I did. I was knocking for a couple minutes and I was saying hello. Nobody answered. So I decided to come around the back. And obviously my friend's still annoyed and he's like, well, why did you try to come around the back? Like, what do you need? What are you trying to get into the house for? And his uncle's like, well, you know, your dad told me to come grab this from the house and I figured that like someone had to be home, and if you weren't home, then like I was just gonna go in the back door and grab it and it wouldn't be a big deal. I didn't realize anybody was home, otherwise I probably would have said something sooner, but nobody was answering. Like, I assumed the house was empty. And at that point, my friend's kind of like, all right, fair enough. I guess if you were knocking on the door for several minutes, you know, and nobody was answering, you would assume that nobody was home, but like I still feel like going around the backyard is kind of weird. And at that point, he's like, yeah, well, your dad told me that there was a strong probability the back door was unlocked if for some reason you weren't home. Like, I just assumed you were on a bike ride or whatever. You know, I didn't think anybody was here because no one's answering the door. I just thought there was no one literally in the house at this moment. He told me the back door might be unlocked, so obviously I was just gonna go around to the back door. And he's like, well, you do realize that by wiggling the back door like that, I thought that you were a robber. And he's like, yeah, I understand why you were thinking that, you know, I understand that in your panic, but do you understand that like I'm just doing what your dad told me to do? And at that point he realizes, all right, it's just my uncle, I'm gonna go let him in. So he goes downstairs and opens the back door and he lets his uncle in. And almost immediately his uncle is like, what did you do? Because he sees all of the glue on the door, and of course it's gotten everywhere. The door itself sounds like it's struggling to open. You know, something that I think my friend had forgotten is that glue still has the property of gravity, like in this scenario. Obviously he gets this now, like he was a lot younger, you know? Glue still has the properties of gravity even when you've put it in cracks of doors or just into door jams in general. So he had like really overflowed all this glue into this door, and as you know, gravity had done its thing, it had come out of the door jam and just gotten all over the carpet. So there's just this huge patch of carpet that's now just absolutely covered in glue because he had tried to glue the back door shut. And his uncle's like, what did you do? And he tells his uncle he had thought someone was breaking in, so he tried to booby trap the house, and one of the things he had done was try to glue the door shut, and his uncle is like, well, I would definitely try to clean that up because your parents are going to be pissed. And on top of that, why would you booby trap the house instead of calling the police if someone was breaking in? And my friend really didn't have a good answer to that because there really isn't one. You know, it was definitely the wrong choice to start gluing the door shut. Anyways, his uncle grabbed what he needed to grab and did help him for a little bit cleaning up the mess. There wasn't really much that they could do to clean it up quickly because obviously glue in the carpet is glue in the carpet. So he cleaned it up, he left, and his parents end up coming home, and almost immediately his parents just see this ginormous clump of glue in the carpet. You know how parents just have that radar that like whatever you did wrong while they were gone, they're gonna find almost instantly. Yeah, that's basically what went down. So he starts telling his parents everything that happened, and they're like laughing, thinking it's funny, trying not to be mad. I mean, obviously they're not stoked with the situation because nobody's hyped about a bunch of glue in their carpet, but at the same time, if your son's telling you that like I literally tried to glue the door shut and then sprayed my uncle with an airsoft gun because I thought someone was breaking in, like it's like, all right, clearly you're not ready to stay home yet. You know, it's kind of more on them because hey, first time he stays home this happens. Could you imagine time 4? He's gonna have like a literal air force at the house by the time they get back. What I don't get though is like I had been staying home for a minute by then. You know, I know everybody's different, but like at 13 I wasn't booby trapping the house anytime there was the smallest noise. For some reason though, he ended up not getting in a lot of trouble. His parents were just kind of like, it is what it is, which I guess is the best outcome possible if you're him, right? More than anything, he said that the worst punishment he received from it was the fact that like everyone in his family calls him Kevin McAllister to this day, and he's just never been able to live it down. But I mean, how could they, bro? Like, you literally started pretending that you were defending the fort like you were in Home Alone. Obviously, they're gonna have to make fun of you for that. What are they supposed to do? Just pretend that's not funny? Regardless, overall, I would say don't try to fight robbers. You know, if they're crazy enough to be breaking into your house, they're probably crazy enough to do other stuff, and you shouldn't 1v1 them. But that'll do it. I just thought this was gonna be a funny video. If you guys enjoyed, I'd appreciate you taking a second to press the like button. Let me know in the comments section down below what you thought. And of course, subscribe if you're new and turn on those notifications. If you really want to help me out, I'll put a link to the intro song down below, along with the link to my podcast, The Scuffed Cast, or, of course, you could use code SCRUBBY at the G Fuel checkout. It's another great way to help me out. Last but not least, I do put my story times up on Spotify if you want to check them out. Link in the top of the description to go listen to that. And you can also get the merch, which is pretty fantastic. Link can also be found down below. Be sure to go get some. On that note, though, guys, that'll do it. Don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot, and I'll see you guys next time. I'm out. Peace.